These teens are kicking up their feet in Times Square, happy to be alive. Even the simple act of eating a pretzel is precious. And why not? After all, they recently survived a nightmare that could have killed them. Avery Bryan and Eva Aponte were stranded in rough seas off the coast of Florida on an inflatable paddleboard for 16 hours. But they survived, and now they're sharing their harrowing story with Inside Edition.
Where were you guys going?
So it was low tide out, and the water looked pretty nice. It looked smooth, and we decided, oh, it's a great time to go to the sandbar because we can see it.
We walked in like hip deep and then got on the board and started like paddling.
But when it was time to return home, disaster struck.
The current was very strong.
They were stranded.
You guys, your lives were in danger.
Absolutely, like 100% our lives were in danger. We were both out there in 40-degree weather with sweatshirts on and shorts on the water. I mean, throughout the night, both of us had trouble keeping our hearts beating.
The hours wore on. They did everything to keep warm.
And I had her laying on top of me, and at that point, like, our breathing had synced up, and it was very slow. It was kind of like if somebody's in a really, really deep slumber.
You guys heard helicopters overhead.
They went over us 4 times. We were yelling and we were trying to wave our arms out the side, and we picked up the paddle and we just started waving it around.
They ended up here on top of an oyster bed filled with razor-sharp shells. Eva still has the scratches on her hand, and there's blood stains on the paddleboard.
This is my blood from where I got off and stupidly fell into the oysters. At one point, she grabbed my shoulders and she was like, Eva, I cannot die out here.
Back on land, their parents alerted police and the Coast Guard.
Do you guys have a rescue vessel or something like that could go and see if they're stranded out there?
A desperate search was launched, and with thousands of square miles to cover, the call went out for civilians with boats to take to the Gulf.
The more boats we can get out here, the better.
At daybreak, these 4 friends also went out on an airboat. They had a strategy to find the girls, knowing they were on an inflatable paddleboard.
That changed the whole perspective on where to search in our heads, knowing that with an inflatable object like that, you're going to follow the wind pattern less than the current pattern.
30 minutes in, a miracle. There they were.
They were waving at us, and we're like, that's them.
Unbelievable news! They found the 2 girls.
I remember they asked us, they're like, are you guys the missing girls? And I was like, I think so. What's their names?
The rescuers carried the girls on their shoulders. They were too weak to stand. Here are Eva and Avery shortly after being rescued. With warm clothing and blankets, they snuggled on the airboat wearing headphones.
I'm glad that I experienced this with my best friend. I mean, I don't want anybody else to experience it because it's not fun.